Hey everyone, I'm back. Last week I had some pink eye. It's amazing how sickness can just flow through the Walker family. I think I got a little bit of an infection still in my right eye, but other than that, I'm feeling good. It's pretty cleaned up, and a couple verses stood out this morning. So I was thinking about the conflict between Satan's kingdom and the kingdom of God, and what the ultimate battle is over. And if you remember, if you go back, I believe Satan was probably in charge of 1/3 of all the angels in heaven. Michael, maybe 1/3. Gabriel, 1/3. Lucifer, 1/3. And Satan wasn't content with worshiping the Lord. He wasn't content with being second. He wanted to be God. He wanted to receive worship, which we're going to look at in a moment. So I just think the whole battle is over worship. And that brought to mind a passage in John chapter 4, which I want to read for you. John chapter 4, verse 23, Jesus is at the well in Samaria, and he's talking to the Samaritan woman, and they're talking about the theme of worship. And Jesus says in John 4:23, a time is coming when worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth, for they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. So the Father is seeking worship. God is seeking worship. God is a spirit, and his worshipers must worship in spirit and in truth. Now, that was not the exact passage that caught my attention. The one I had been thinking about was in Matthew chapter 4, where Satan comes to Jesus and he tempts him with three temptations. And the final of those three is, if you will bow down and worship me, I will give you all the kingdoms of the world. So I think when Adam and Eve sinned, they forfeited the right to rule over the earth, and they gave up their God-given authority for that commission to Satan. So it was rightfully his. He's called the God of this world. Jesus has come to restore that for mankind. But so Satan has all power. He has all authority. And the final thing that really showed his heart in Matthew chapter 4 is this. He said, if you will bow down and worship me, I'll give you all the kingdoms of the world. And I truly believe they were his to give, because Adam and Eve had forfeited the right to rule over to Satan, and all of us ever since. So Jesus responds by saying, it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God only. So Satan, at that temptation, was trying to get God in flesh to bow down to him. So it proves my point that Satan's objective from the very beginning, which is an indication of God's heart is seeking worshipers. Satan wasn't content to be a worshiper. He wanted to be worshiped. He sought that position in heaven, was cast down, and even on earth, he is seeking those to choose to follow him and worship him. So we've got two kingdoms. All of us are born into the kingdom of darkness. By default, we are worshipers of Satan. We're worshipers of idols and all of the things of the world. All the different gods of the world, all the different pleasures of the world, all the different idols of the world, until Jesus comes and rescues us from the kingdom of darkness into the kingdom of light, and we become worshipers of God. And the final passage that came to mind as I was thinking about worship is Romans chapter 12, verse 1. Very famous passage. I'll read that here in a moment. But also, think about worship. So the highest calling for humanity is to become a worshiper. And if you think about it, worship is really about focus. Whatever we focus our eyes on, whatever we focus our heart on, our mind on, we become like the thing or the one that we worship. So the more we focus on worshiping Jesus, we become like him. But if our focus is on media, if our focus is on the world, if our focus is on any other idol, we become like that thing. So worship, I think, is very closely tied to focus. We will always become more and more like the one that we worship. And that's why Jesus responded, worship, it is written, worship the Lord your God only and no other. Have no other gods before me. And Romans chapter 12, verse 1 says, therefore, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, offer yourselves as a living sacrifice. This is your pleasing and holy act of worship. So again, goes back to how do we worship God, which is the ultimate thing that the Lord is seeking. We worship him by giving ourselves to him, by offering ourselves as a living sacrifice to him. Now, Satan is seeking worshipers. He's seeking followers. He's seeking those who would obey and follow his example in rebellion to God. But God is seeking those who would convert kingdoms and freely and willingly choose to follow him and become worshipers in spirit and in truth. John chapter 4. So, the whole battle of the universe is over worship between two kingdoms, darkness and light, and ultimately both kings, God and Satan, are seeking worshipers. The question is, who do you worship? Who do you give your time to? Who is your focus on? And who are you becoming more and more like? Something to think about. Have a blessed day. We'll see you later.